Thank you, Dr. Elmendorf. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, let me provide some of the arithmetic. I've passed out a one-page income statement for the United States, for our Federal Government, over 30 years. I think that's, if you're going to solve a problem, you have to properly define it. When we keep talking about a 10-year budget window problem, I think we dramatically understate the problem. And so what I've been doing a lot of work with is your CBO alternate fiscal scenario. And rather than, that's always laid out as percentage of GDP, so I've turned it into numbers. And then I've taken those numbers and put them on to a one-page income statement to highlight really what the problem is. So I think you've got a copy of that income statement there now?
Yes, Senator.
I've highlighted the areas. It's pretty stark. Over the next 30 years, Social Security will pay out $14.6 trillion more in benefits than it takes in the payroll tax, according to CBO. Medicare will pay out $35 trillion more in benefits than it takes in the payroll tax over the next 30 years. And then we will pay out to our creditors $71 trillion. And that all totals up to $121 trillion. The entire deficit over the next 30 years is $127. Let me just lay out how that occurs by decade. $8 trillion the first decade, $31 trillion the second decade, $88 trillion the third decade. Now, my little baby girl just turned 31. I can tell you that went by like that. And just in case people think the alternate fiscal scenario is way out there and just way overstates the case, if you compare the percentage of spending to GDP versus our 20-year average, for all the entitlements over the last 20 years has been about 8.3%. Over the next 30 years, according to this scenario, it's about 13.5%, and everybody's pretty much in agreement in terms of the entitlements. Defense, we spent $3.9 trillion over the last 20 years. The CBO's alternate fiscal scenario says we'll spend 3.5, so it's actually under the 20-year average. All other spending, we spend about 6.7. The alternate fiscal scenario is 6%. So if you look at the past and project to the future, even your alternate fiscal scenario shows spending less than we've spent over the last 20 years. So I just want you to comment on, is that basically your understanding of what the 30-year projection is according to CBO's? Alternate fiscal scenario.
As you understand, Senator, I can't actually absorb or check all these numbers sitting here.
No, I understand,
but the thrust of your remarks that the big pressure on outlays is coming from Social Security and the health care programs, and then because of the deficits and accumulating debt and interest on the debt, that is right, Senator.
So again, that's again, I'm not saying you're these are the numbers, but largely true. $8 trillion first decade, 31 the second, 88 trillion the third, $127 trillion. Quick, put that in perspective. The entire net private asset base of America today, every asset held by every household, every business large and small, is about $106 trillion. So there's a problem that's completely unsustainable. But when we're just focusing on a 10-year budget window, somewhere in the $7 to $8 trillion deficit, we're not even beginning to understand the real depth of the problem, are we?
Senator, no. I think that looking over the longer term is very important for you and your colleagues to see the real challenges, as Senator Ayotte and others have commented.
So let me focus in on Social Security, because you might be a little bit more familiar with those. The $15 trillion in Social Security over the next years, that actually breaks down about $1.5 trillion the first decade, about $4 trillion the second decade, about $8 trillion the third. Now, what happens when the Social Security Trust Fund runs out of money? By law, what happens?
By law, then benefits can only be paid up to the amount of money coming into the fund, which would be a good deal less than the benefits that are in current law.
So the Disability Trust Fund is going to run out, according to your current paper here, about 2017. So according to current law, unless we do something, according to current law, how much would those benefits be reduced by approximately?
I think it's around a 20% cut in disability insurance benefits in early fiscal year 2017 under current law.
And then when the trust funds run out of the retirement benefits, right now somewhere around 2033, what is the projection in terms of reduction, by law, the reduction in benefits when we run out of that trust fund?
Again, Senator, I think the reduction is on the order of about 20% in relative to current law benefits.
And again, I appreciate during the special conferences we had last December, was it last December? I think so. I appreciate the fact that you were very honest in your assessment of the value of that trust fund. It's an asset to the those U.S. government bonds are assets to the trust fund, but they're a liability to the Treasury,
Yes.
and consolidate the federal books, that nets to zero, right? So the trust fund
Yes.
has no value to the federal government, dollar value, correct?
Yes, as you say, it has legal meaning for the trust fund, but is on a federal government taken on a consolidated basis, which is the way that we focus on the federal government, then it nets out to zero.
So at $15 trillion, we really have nothing really in the federal government to pay those benefits even through 2033, other than that accounting bookkeeping transfer from the trust fund to the Treasury, who then have to go either float more bonds or raise more taxes.
Yes, Senator. What our projection is, as you know, focused on is the unified federal budget, and the source of funds for benefits in a given year is tax receipts in that year or borrowing. And so and we show this by focusing not on the trust funds, but on the projections of outlays and revenues, including the ones that you used from our alternative scenario.
Thank you. That helps define the problem. Thank you.
Senator Baldwin isn't here. Senator Murray.
Well, thank you so much, Chairman.